Hello, YouTube. I wanted to do a video on some guns, and I figured I'd talk about this. These are basically, in my opinion, the three best combat handguns that you could carry are the 1911, the Glock, and the SIG. There's a lot of what fors and reason whys on why the 1911 is on that list, and we'll get there. But let's start going around the room. Let's start with the 1911. Why not? So, the 1911 is on my list because it is one of the best guns to shoot. And it's in 45 typically. And if I'm going to have a gun in 45, it's going to be a 1911. I wouldn't even fuck with a Glock or SIG in 45 auto. Okay, so with a 1911, I would want a 5-inch barreled standard government gun or a Commander. Either way, full-size magazines and either the Commander slide or the full-size slide. And that's for reliability and power and everything else. That's what I would get in a 1911. I liked the Remingtons while they were being made because they came with mostly GI features with dovetail sights. I like that. Um, I like a GI gun. If I was going to buy a 1911 now, I'd probably get a Rock Island and pimp it out. So that's kind of where I'm at with 1911s. I'm not a Gucci like, oh, we need the race gun to blah blah blah. Like I like the Remington. I like the Rock Island. Those guns do what I want a 1911 to do. So the next easy one is the Glock. For me, there are only really 3 or 4 Glocks, um, maybe 5 Glocks. The Glock 26, 19, and 17 are the 9mm subcompact, compact, and full-size Glocks. Those are the guns we would be carrying or buying, in my opinion. I wouldn't fuck around with anything else, basically, except I do have a soft spot in my heart for the Glock 42 and the Glock 30S, because it's a 45 that holds 10 rounds that's the size of a Glock 19, and that's kind of neat. But I'd rather have a Glock 19. And the Glock 42, I have a spot in my heart for it because it's just so tiny. It's a wee tiny little gun. But I don't know. I think if I was going to pick one Glock, it would be the Glock 19 because it's the mama bear of the package, right? Like it can go in both worlds, and the 17 is a good choice too. But let's Glock 19, Glock 17, one of those. I would I like the Glock because it's $500. It works. It's accurate. The sights for it are cheap. You can put a customized backplate on it for like $20 and add a little bit of personal flair. And like for me personally, I like putting an Imperial backplate on it because I like to picture that I'm Darth Vader and that Darth Vader would carry a Glock because it looks like Vader's gun. It's black and it's plasticky and like so I put an Imperial backplate on mine. Also, an Imperial backplate is not one that has any connotations of like I am the law. Like I would not put a Punisher skull backplate or a Judge Dredd backplate on a gun I was going to carry every day. It's just legal advice, really. That's some free legal advice right there. I'm not a lawyer, but I did play a gynecologist in a woman's prison once on TV, so you can trust me. See, other things about the Glock. The Glock has good magazines. I love the Glock's magazines. That's another thing about the 1911. Bopping back to that for a second. The 1911, either in 9mm or 45, actually has good magazines available for it now. So it gets a plus there too. But the Glock has even cooler magazines because it has 33 round sticks, which for a pistol, in my opinion, the ability to have your second magazine be a 33 round stick magazine, that's big. That's how you should carry your shit, in my opinion. Like, I would have one mag in the gun, and then I would have a dual mag pouch maybe on my belt, right? Or a single mag in a pocket carrier, maybe, depending on who I am, where I am, what I'm doing. But I would really like to have a SMG pouch kind of thing, horizontal on the small of my back with a 33 round magazine in it. And the idea is, if you're having to reload, it's probably a real bad day. Why not have more ammo? And maybe that's some like ninja shit, like mall ninja shit, but I think it's applicable. It depends on how bad the situation is, right? Um, Other things about Glocks. Glocks fit a lot of holsters. There's a lot of holsters made for Glocks. Even probably more so than the SIG and the 1911. I used to be in the holster business. For those who don't know, in college I made holsters, and they were rip-offs of crossbreed holsters. And I did that because I wanted a crossbreed holster, and I bought one, and it was $70. And I was like, well, there's nothing to this. I could make this. So I made one, and it was $7. And I was like, $7, $70. Fuck, I'm in the holster business. I made some money. I sold some holsters, but like, ended up that the market for my holsters was maybe about $25 a piece, which is really doing pretty good at $7 a piece. I made some money. Uh, I don't really remember where I was going with that. Oh, the thing I was going to say is that when I had that business, I made half of the holsters that I made in my first run Glocks, and the first holster that I sold out of was Glocks. The second holster I sold out of was 1911s. And now I'm going to tell you why the connoisseur shoots SIGs. Because fuck both those other pistols. I really like the SIG 226 quite a bit, and the M17 is growing on me. I have the Flux Raider, and I like that. But that is quite a different animal from the standard M17. I haven't played with it outside of the chassis that much. I've shot a handful of SIG 320s that I've had over the years, but I think they've kind of slowly product improved it, and I don't know. I don't know if I would pull the trigger on a 320 over a 226 at this point, but it is the future, it looks like, because the Army picked it. And it does shoot good. I really like the trigger on the 320, but I'm going to focus on the 226 for this because it is the god tier pistol of this in my mind. If you're going to buy one handgun, it should be the 6-hour 226. I like double action, single action pistols because they are a pistol that is not made for fucking idiots. The Glock is a pistol made for idiots. The 1911 is a pistol made for safety conscious idiots. And the SIG is a pistol made for a fucking super genius. It counts on your ability to make a double action to single action transition on the fly. If you can't do that, you shouldn't carry a fucking SIG. And like that takes practice. It's sort of like being like, well, this is better than AK-47 is better than a fucking Barrett because it takes less practice to use one. Yeah, that's not a solid argument. It depends entirely on the situation. Like at 1,000 yards, the Barrett's always better than the AK, right? So my thing with the SIG is if I'm in double action, I can make that shot. When I dry fire with a 226, I dry fire almost exclusively double action, with the transition to single action being like 10% of the time. That first shot is important. You need to be able to make it. But because it's important, if you're carrying a SIG and you know you're going into shit where you're going to be shooting that gun, throw the hammer back. And if you don't have time to throw the hammer back and it's the end of the world and whatever, I would consider taking a shot into the ground to clear the double action shot to get the single action shot to make some sort of precision shot. It would be very, very fucking fast to do that. I've done it before. It does work. You do waste a round. There are hazards with that. If you're like in a second story building and you shoot the ground, you're going to fucking do all sorts of shit. And if you're not already initiated, then you're giving a lot of shit away. But if like the fight is on, you're taking bullets and like they have a hostage and they're at 25 yards and you have a SIG 226, I would crank one shot off that wouldn't hit anything and then I would shoot the other shot at the target that I wanted to hit. And that is not technically correct. That is a thing that, like, most trainers would say, oh, that's going to get you sued in court of law, blah, 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 blah. If someone's telling you that shit, they're not worried about you surviving. How about that one? You'll hear from, samurai and shit like that, that, like, you should only hold your sword as though you're going to go into battle. What that means in gunfighting is that you shouldn't fight in any way that you're not really going to fight. And if it fucking means the difference between living or dying, shooting versus throwing the hammer back, I'm not sure what the difference in time is on that. It probably isn't much. But I know for a fact that I can shoot the gun quickly, and I know for a fact that the second shot is going to be single action. And if it's going to be making a headshot on a hostage target at fucking 25 yards, I'm not doing that double action. No one would. Only an idiot would do that. Other things about the SIG I like. I like its mags, but honestly, I don't understand why SIG doesn't make a fucking 30-round mag for that gun. Never has, never will. And the mags that they do make for it are 15-rounders, so I have to go to Metgar to get the 18 and 20-round mags. Which, if you're going to run a SIG 226, run a fucking Metgar. They work. I like them. I think Metgar makes really good magazines, especially like 1911 mags. I also recommend Metgar, especially if you're going to go 9mm. The 10-round Metgar 1911 mag is my favorite mag for the 1911. If it's in 45, I'd rather go Wilson Combat. More SIG shit. The SIG sights, the advantage of SIG is that they come with night sights. And that's just cool. It saves you time, money, and effort. And I think SIG is basically adding those to the pistol and adding like 75 or 80 bucks to the cost of the gun. That's good. That's real good. That's honestly one of the main things that attracted me to SIG over a lot of other companies. So you don't have to fuck around with putting sights on shit. Now, Glock's way of having sights that are easy to put on and cheap, that works too. The 1911 sucks worst of all because it's the oldest design, and basically it has dinosaur sights. At best, you get dovetails. That's at best with the 1911. You could have so much worse. The GI sights are like staked in. When it comes to these three guns, the thing to consider to me is how much training do you have with these various systems? And if your answer is none, then the answer is going to be Glock. Because Glock is the only one of these three that is, just draw the gun and point and shoot. The 1911 takes training to put the safety off, and the SIG takes lots of training. So I think a lot of people misunderstand people like James Yeager when they're like, all guns should be Glocks. He's saying all guns should be, easy to fucking use, basically. It's the only difference between the Glock, the SIG, and the 1911 is the level of complexity of the controls. And to me, if you can fucking, shoot and ice skate and fucking do math all at the same time, maybe you should carry a SIG. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's me. I have attention deficit disorder and think about 1 billion miles an hour, and it doesn't bother me at all to have a gun that goes double action, single action with a decocker. In fact, I like having that level of control over the gun. It's kind of like someone who drives a manual transmission truck, and they're like, oh, I just like having a standard because I have so much more control over the vehicle. It's the same thing. It's some bullshit. It's because it's what I like. That's all it is. And SIG would be my choice of the three of these if it was for me. If it was for a new person amateur, I would say Glock. And if it's for someone on a budget, that's where I would say Rock Island 1911, because you can get a Rock Island 1911 for cheaper than either of these other two guns. And even with GI sights on it, a $400 Rock Island 1911 will defend you, and I would trust it. I've been in some of the worst places I've ever been in the world with a fucking GI sighted Rock Island 1911. Those are stories for a different day. But if I was going to buy one of these as my only gun for the apocalypse, I think the Glock is kind of the obvious choice because it's easier to train with. It has the cheapest magazines. It's the cheapest. And it has the cheapest sights. It is one of the simplest guns to work on. Just lots of shit about the Glock is just win, 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 win. The only lose for me about the Glock is then you are a Glock guy and you're a Glock fanboy. And honestly, Glock fanboys suck. That's the part that makes it hard to even be a fan of Glocks. Is they have this like large audience of retards that just go, "Why didn't you buy a Glock?" Blah, 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 blah. Like because I don't like it. I would rather have the fucking car that I have. The car MK9 than any Glock pistol. I think it's a cooler gun. I don't think Glocks are that cool. And eventually, I'm probably going to have to eat my words on that because I think Glocks are going to be the cult peacemakers of our time. I think someday, like early generation Glocks in good shape are going to go for a lot of money. I've sold a couple of really nice Gen 2s that I regret letting go of now. Gen 1s are going to be collector's items forever. They're already collector's items. If you see one pop up for sale, it goes for over $1,000. Um, if I was only going to have one of these guns to shoot, it would be the 1911. I think the 1911 is pretty much the best handgun to shoot. It's like cheating. It has a really good trigger. It has pretty decent sights on it if you get modern sights. Uh, I like pretty much everything about that gun. My hack for 1911s with a GI gun is to cut the fucking tail of the hammer off with a bandsaw. You do that and then round it out to where you can still barely cock it. That's how you should do a 1911 hammer. It should be like an emergency recock kind of thing, and if you leave a nub, you can do it. Uh, Also for 1911s, the Streamlight 1911 Light, the TLR6 1911 is pretty bitchin'. I like that. Mm, that's about it, I think, for Glock versus SIG versus 1911. Tell me in the comments below which one of these would you choose if you were going to choose one. What would you use it for and why? Like, put some thought into your guns. Like, if you've noticed this conversation, like, I would pick all three of these guns for different things and different reasons. I'm not married to any one of these guns. These are different tools, and I know how to use all of these different tools, and that's how I would encourage you to be with guns. Thanks for watching.